Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and as we know, upcoming this summer, we have a rebuild at Celtic. We're looking for change, things should be changing, but as the days go by, I feel like there's even more of a chance Neil Lennon being here next season than what there should be. It's scaring me a little bit, but nonetheless, it's a rebuild that we are a bit excited for, despite the consequences that have led up to it. But the thing is, Celtic have been linked with 3 players over the past week, which has kind of got my excitement levels going downwards. I'm not too happy about it, but there's a lot to discuss. Let's just get into it after the intro. So if you were paying attention there and you're not blind, you would have noticed that on my face was crosshairs. Little white boxes and such all around my face. I forgot to turn off the autofocus through the cam link for this episode, and yeah, it means that it's there for the entire 15 minutes, so I'm going to have to wing it and use graphics for this rather than you seeing my face. I do apologise, but I think you'd rather look at photos of the players in question than sit and have to watch those white boxes move around the entire video. I am so sorry. Right then, we've talked about this so many times, and I've done a video a couple of weeks ago which highlighted who I think should stay at the club and who will leave the club and blah 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 this coming summer, leading up to what is a very important one for Celtic. You know, we've knew for years that there was going to be change at the club. We knew that if Celtic did or didn't win 10 in a row this year, there would be things changing, whether it be managerial, whether it be an influx of players, whether it be an exodus of players. There was always going to be change at Celtic when it came to this year. It was almost going to be a new era, and by my understanding, it's still going to be a new era. We've got Peter Law leaving the club. We'll hopefully see Neil Lennon leaving the club, and you know, players, whether we want to see them go or not, will go. So it is a kind of new era at Celtic. However, the past week, in terms of transfer rumours and leading up to this rebuild at Celtic, have led me to believe that there's a little bit of a worry here. It's not so much a rebuild that at first I would imagine. Now, you can take everything with a pinch of salt here, and I am, for one, taking everything with a pinch of salt. I believe that there still is a very high chance Lennon will be gone. I believe that we will look for fresh direction at the club. I think we'll move to a director of football sort of approach. But from the paper talk and the rumours online over the past week, there are 3 players in particular that are being linked with Celtic, which points in all the wrong directions for me. And if we do go forward with trying to sign these players, to me it indicates the fact that Neil Lennon will remain manager next year. Now that's why I'm saying take everything with a pinch of salt. But there's 3 guys to go through here. It's a kind of mixture of, let's talk about Celtic's rebuild and Celtic transfer talk. It's a kind of mix of the two here. We're going to go through them one by one and discuss why I think Celtic should stay well clear of these players heading into what is a big summer for the club. First off, it's David Marshall. Now look, David Marshall is a terrific goalkeeper, brilliant, and Celtic are now being linked with him yet again. We were linked with him last summer, and if I remember rightly back on this channel, I was kind of impartial to the signing of Marshall. I thought that he would be a good signing, but one that we should try and avoid for other options. Cough cough Barkas. I thought Barkas was well and truly the best option, and I still believe we'll still get to see a lot of the best of Barkas, just whenever the confidence and the playing time comes. But David Marshall was one I wasn't too bothered about. I was like, hit or miss, I think it would be okay. Since then, he's went on to be the nation's sweetheart. He single-handedly took us to the Euros. He's had a chant made up about him, a conga line. You know, he's really claimed the heart of many, and after that night especially, in Serbia, you know, he really got everybody talking in the Celtic support of why did we not sign him? He should have been the one. And look, there's no denying David Marshall is a tremendous goalkeeper. There's no denying he's top notch and one of the best I think this country has produced in my lifetime, certainly. But now for Celtic to go and sign him would point in all the wrong directions, I think. Look, I think Barkas still deserves a chance. I know so many people are against that altogether. I still think he deserves a chance, but Marshall nonetheless isn't the goalkeeper I'd be going for now. I think the chance to sign him was the summer there. For the chance for him to come in and be Celtic's first team keeper for maybe 2 or 3 years was there. I think going forward now, if this is a rebuild, we shouldn't be considering someone in the twilight of their career who, at club level, hasn't been anything special this season. Now, I have always been one for the old saying that goalkeepers get better with age. The man's 36 next month. I believe his birthday's on the 5th of March. 36 years old. I don't think that heading into a rebuild and a new generation and a new era for the club, one of our top targets should be a 36-year-old goalkeeper. I just don't think so. For as good as he is, Celtic should be aiming for younger players at this point. We should be looking at talent overseas, I think. Even if it's not overseas, just younger talent over the country. I think David Marshall is tremendous, and I'll keep saying that. I think he's a really good keeper, but it's short-term gain, I think, for Celtic by bringing him in. And I guess you can weigh up that part of the conversation. Is this rebuild more about getting back to short-term success rather than building for the long-term? You can weigh up that argument, but for me, I just feel like there are so many different options out there that you're saving, 10 years in a career with, than going for David Marshall just because he's done so well for Scotland. Now, you're not guaranteeing he comes into this Celtic fold with the defence that we've got right now and he does the same sort of job. People are still expecting Fraser Forster type performances. So what if we bring in David Marshall? What if we bring in this 36-year-old goalkeeper and he has a terrible defence in front of him and he has a shocker in between the sticks? People are going to throw him to the side straight away, and then you're wondering, why did we gamble our first team goalkeeper's place on a 36-year-old? That is what will end up happening. In hindsight, it's beautiful to think things, blah, blah. We all know hindsight would be great, but for me, it doesn't make for an appealing player to come in as part of a Celtic rebuild. It really doesn't. I suppose it's hard for me to sit here and pinpoint better options by names, considering the fact that I'm not a scout. I don't know who's good goalkeepers all over the world. You can only take things as rumours come in normally. But for me, I just feel like you need to aim a little bit more exciting than David Marshall, reverting back to old talent, people who used to play for Celtic. That's a failing scouting system. I don't like that, personally. And I know a lot of people will be all for David Marshall because of how good he's been over his whole career, but I think at any other point for Celtic would be a good signing, but not to spearhead a rebuild.
For $500,000, what would that do? I'll run around the hotel naked. So that's at -10 temperature for a $5.
Stephen O'Donnell is named number 2 here, and I don't know. Look, I've always been a fan of Stephen O'Donnell, and I've always highly rated him. If you go back to old videos where I'm talking about other clubs, you go back in the Talk Scottish Football podcast, and formerly when I was on the SPFL show, I've always ranted and raved about how good Stephen O'Donnell is for when he played at Kilmarnock, and now at Motherwell I feel like he's been okay too. His contract is up at the end of the season. He will be someone who's available in a free transfer. Now, when it comes to depth, I believe that Stephen O'Donnell could actually be a decent signing for Celtic, but once again, alongside David Marshall, for me, it's not the sort of name you want to be linked with in terms of a rebuild. Right now, I think John Joe Kenny is a brilliant option at that right back position, and I would love for us to try and make some sort of deal happen in the summer, whether that be extend his loan deal for a further year or try and get him on a permanent basis. I think John Joe Kenny can be a huge part of Celtic season next year and be part of this rebuild, whether it be under Neil Lennon or not. And I think it's no coincidence that Celtic have went on to win 5 games since he's came in. I think he's added a good bit of stability and confidence to that back line. I think even though he's been kind of quiet, I don't think he's exactly stood out and been amazing. He's definitely added something there, and I like him. I don't think Stephen O'Donnell is that same level of signing if we weren't to get Kenny back. Also, there's a reason that O'Donnell has been playing in a struggling Motherwell side all season. Another guy who's done well when asked at the Scottish international duties, he's came in, he's done a good job under Stevie Clarke. I feel like he needs a Stevie Clarke type manager to get the best out of him. He needs someone who's going to focus on defensive football. I think that you'd see a lot of people exploiting that right hand side of the park if we had a manager who wants to come in and play attacking football, which is usually what Celtic want to do. It's been the kind of Celtic way, you can say. For me, once again, it's a signing that shows a lack of ambition. And I'm not denying he's a good player, but I don't quite think he's Celtic level. He's certainly past the peak of his career, I think. And I think that, by signing him, it's a step in the wrong direction once again. Is it me being too negative towards Stephen O'Donnell? Yes, he's a good homegrown talent, but I just don't think he's Celtic quality. Certainly not starting, and certainly once again not a name you want to see linked when you're trying to spearhead a rebuild. Solid player. I've said it time and time again, and as I've already said in this video, I've always liked him, but I don't know, it's a kind of Neil Lennon signing to me. It's one of those ones again that I think shows that he could be here come this rebuild, and I'm not too keen on it. And do you know what, maybe I'm being a bit harsh. As a squad player, absolutely, but let's focus on other players first. Let's look elsewhere before we jump to buying somebody who's playing for a mediocre Motherwell side.
Inviting is there! Robbie Brady brings us all to our feet in Lille.
And you know what? We'll come on to the last one now, and it's Robbie Brady. Someone who, once again, I've been a fan of throughout his career. I quite like Robbie Brady, but this is a signing that screams Neil Lennon to me. And the fact that there is rumours of this, Stephen O'Donnell, David Marshall, there are three types of signings that suggest Neil Lennon, and that's why I don't want him anywhere near the club. Let's not avoid that point. I'm not saying no to these guys because they aren't good footballers. I think they're the wrong type of players to spearhead a Celtic rebuild. I think they're the wrong type of players to bring in for someone fresh and with fresh ideas for this club. These are the type of players that suit Neil Lennon, and if I was to guess off the top of my head where they're coming from, is from a Neil Lennon type shortlist. Robbie Brady, 29 years old, he's had a solid career in the Premier League. He's been with Burnley for the last wee while now and played for Norwich for a good while as well. Irish international. It reeks of Shane Duffy. Look, this is a kind of signing that if we made last summer alongside Shane Duffy, I would be buzzing. I'd be saying, oh yes, he's here to tell the league about best winger in the league and all the rest of it. And I've learned from those mistakes. I think there is that kind of, and we're all guilty of it as Celtic fans, there is always that kind of sentimental feeling when something like an Irish player comes over here and we're like, they're going to be good. And I just don't think Robbie Brady is the answer. I think he's a good player. But it's once again, a 29-year-old aging winger playing for Burnley in the Premier League. I think he could, you know, we've seen Sinclair come here at a similar age. I think he was 28 or 29 when we signed him from Aston Villa, and he came up here and he done tremendously. Top scorer for the first 2 seasons he was here for Celtic. Brilliant player, one of the best and most electrifying players I've seen play for Celtic in recent years. But I just don't see why Robbie Brady should come in at this point in time either. There are certainly younger guys I think who deserve a chance, even though I'm not a big fan, like Mikey Johnson, than this jumping to get Robbie Brady. He's made 19 appearances this season. He's been solid enough for Burnley. Once again, his contract is up. But if we go ahead with signing players like Brady and we go ahead and sign Marshall and O'Donnell, they are three players to me that are signings that would suggest we're still accepting to be in a mediocre position. It really does. I just don't think they're three players who come and improve the quality of the squad we've got right now. I think El Yunusi should be prioritised ahead of the likes of Robbie Brady if we want to play an all-out left-sided player. Now, I know Brady can play all down that left side. He can play as a left winger, left mid, left wing back, whatever you want, all down that left-hand side. But if you want to bring him in to play as a left midfielder, then El Yunusi surely comes under the priority there because he is a better left midfielder than Robbie Brady and he's got years ahead of him. So it's a weird one. I just think these are three signings that don't spell out ambition for Celtic, and maybe I'm being overly negative towards it, but there are certainly better options that I think we've got a scouting team there for that can look elsewhere. That's the whole reason of having a scouting team. I think we're going for old routes and old scouting systems that have failed in the past. Some succeeded in the past, but for me, if we're trying to get out this rut and we're trying to go back to reclaim the league title next season, there's signings that show that yes, maybe over the course of a year we do it, but we're going to be looking for replacements instantly once again. And even at that, are they good enough to come in and win us the league title next season? I don't think so. I think that you're relying on, yes, the rest of the team to step up and have a better season first of all, but if you're relying on signings individually, they're not the kind of players you want. And that would be my opinion. Anyway, that does it. 3 players, what do you think? Would you say yes or no to them? I think to a certain extent I would say yes to maybe Robbie Brady and Stephen O'Donnell, but for me they spell out the worst for Celtic in terms of who remains in charge this summer. So I would like them to stay away at the moment. That would be my answer. Anyway, like, subscribe, all the rest of it. Follow me on Twitch, we'll be streaming all week. I'll see you all next time.